I want to open up this message by letting you know that the subject we're about to talk about is extremely controversial. I wouldn't consider opening up this conversation as a active debate or a conversation at work. I wouldn't listen to this at work. I wouldn't consider this under 18 suitable. And please note that there are people who are going to find some of the things displayed that I'm about to display throughout this video extremely offensive. With that said, if you choose to continue, please do. You do so at your own risk. So, nothing I'm about to say is in support of anything that I'm about to show. It's actually in complete disregard of it. And enjoy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about another controversial subject that is actually generally going to be popular more in the South than anywhere else because Southern people love their Dixie Cross. And actually got in a debate conversation with some friends of mine over this topic earlier today, and I just thought that I would take a moment to bring up the truths regarding the matter. And I'm going to do a few things here. Sorry, my ear's itching. I'm not only going to read um, these things to you and hint on the important parts, but I'm also going to show you a highlighted form of the states that decided to write a declaration of cause for their secession, and show you why I think the way I do. There are lots of people in the South that talk about that the Dixie Cross does not represent racism, and that they believe that the Dixie Cross is simply a way to represent that you're proud that you're from the South. Now, unfortunately, the only people that get to objectively change or mandate what a symbol or flag or logo represents are the people who create it. I mean, not advocating for. I mean, I enjoy Superman, not advertising for Superman, but I'm wearing a Superman shirt, and it's important to understand that no matter what I try to do, I can try and tell you this logo means anything, but the reality of it is it only represents Superman. So I can make it a logo for something else. It doesn't change the fact that this logo originated with Superman. Out, and my ear is itching, but if any negative connotation comes as a side effect of wearing this logo, I have to accept that because of the fact that someone created this logo with an original context. Now, lots of people believe that the Civil War was not fought over racism, and I'm going to prove that it was. That is 100% the main reason it was fought over. Now, some of these things I'm going to go ahead and tell you. If you're not in for listening to a long debate or a long video or a long podcast, I would go ahead and exit the video now because this one's going to take some time. This may be a 30-minute or longer one because I'm going to hit on all the key points in this that I can. So, and to give you an idea of how we're doing this, as you guys know, I'm visually impaired, so I'm using Microsoft's accessibility options. I've got a Zoom window open, so, and as I scroll over text, you can see it gets larger as I'm looking. So, and I'm not reading any of the content just yet. I'm just giving you an idea of how that operates. So, as I'm going over the text, I'm going to read it to you and go over with you directly out of the states' mouths their reason for seceding from the Union. So, let's go ahead and start because I want to show you what everyone thinks the Confederate flag is. Okay? And when you talk about the Confederate flag, we're just going to get into the heavy aspects of this. When people think about the Confederate flag, that's the flag that gets thought of. Well, guys, this is not the Confederate flag. This flag, Confederacy wide, wasn't even used by every state. So this is known as the Dixie Cross. This specific one, the iteration that we use commonly, was only used by two states. Virginia, the Navy, it was the first Confederate Navy JAG, and the National Guard of Tennessee used this iteration of the flag. The only difference between this and the Tennessee version is the Tennessee had like a darker navy on the bars. So the actual, let me go ahead and close out of this. The actual Navy, or the actual Confederate flag, let me see if I can get this. Yes, okay, the actual Confederate flag was this. This is what the actual Confederate flag was. You see, this was known as the Stars and Bars. It contained 7 stars representing the 7 states that were seceding from the Union, and then you've got your 2 red bars and 1 centered white bar with the rectangle on top with the stars in a circular formation. Now, if you take, I mean, so there were actually 2 variations of this flag also that came later. There was a 7-star version and a 9-star version. However, when the original secession started for the southern states, this was the flag that they chose for their flag. So this is it. This is the Confederate flag. If you've seen anything different, it's wrong. This is the Confederate flag. In fact, the Dixie Cross was presented as a possible candidate for the rebel flag or the Confederate flag, and it got rejected 3 different times. And that's what I go into later. The the variation of the flag that existed right before the abolishment of the Confederacy it contained the Dixie Cross, but it was a pure white flag, and it contained a small variation of the Dixie Cross in the top left corner where your stars and your circle sit in the actual Confederate flag. And it was approved. And the insane part is whenever the conceptor of the flag, I can't even remember the person who created the flag. It was called the Stainless Banner, also known as the Jackson flag, and the most common name for it. You got to remember this, and I'm pretty sure I can't remember, but I think the guy who created it was I think it was William Thompson, and I'm pretty sure it was William Thompson. And upon it's notoriously known as the white man's flag. That's pretty important to understand. The big white portion of the flag, the majority of the flag, the depiction or meaning behind it was to establish the strength and unity in the preservation of the white race. Like I can't, those were his words. Like that was why that flag existed. That's the whole purpose of it. Okay. So now that we know what we're talking about, let's talk about what these flags represent, because people talk about, oh no, it's Southern pride. It's Southern pride. In my personal opinion, and here's the thing, I'm not going to tell you not to fly the flag. You live in America, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You want to fly this flag, fly this flag. I'm not going to come burn it. I'm not going to come take it down. I'm not going to come over there with arms in hand and force you to remove it. This is your life. Do whatever you want to do. I am a complete right-wing conservative Republican. So I believe in free market capitalism, small government hand, and personal choice. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to freaking hang a towel from your house and fly it, I don't care. However, if you're gonna fly this flag, you have to understand what it means to fly this flag. it doesn't matter what you think it means to you. This flag has a meaning. It was established at the conception of the flag. It doesn't matter what it means to you. It could mean love and unity to you, but the real, just like this logo, this logo could mean Sasquatch to me, but that's not the meaning. That's not what it means. It's Superman's logo. So if there was some sort of negative connotation that went with Superman, I would have to take responsibility for that, regardless of whether I wanted to or not, because it's my choice to rep this logo. So if you're gonna fly this flag, I don't care if you do. If you're gonna do it with a connotation that you believe that there's some sort of pride in living in the South, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. Just understand there is a racial connotation to it, regardless of whether that's your intention or not. There is. So when you receive negative racist remarks toward you flying that flag, you have to accept responsibility for that because the information is there for you to know. And you're just choosing to continue to do it anyway, and choosing to rationalize it and choosing to justify it. And all that's fine if that's what you want to do. More power to you. No one's trying to stop you from, I mean, some people might try and stop you. I'm not going to try and stop you. But do understand what the damn flag means. So anyway, we're going to go straight into the Declaration of Clauses or cause from the states. Now, let me make sure that I can scroll up and down on these things before. Yes, I can. Okay, so I'm not going to read the entire Declaration of Cause for all of the seceding states. What I am going to do, I've already been here, and I have highlighted the word slavery. The only one that doesn't directly talk about slavery but actually does, the only one that you're not going to see highlights on is Virginia. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down through this page. And guys, these are only 5 states submitted declarations of secession or declaration of cause. Okay, for their reason for seceding from the Union. Of these 5 states, every single one of them talk about slavery rampantly throughout the entire damn thing. And I'm going to scroll through here. All of these are the actual text from the Declaration of Causes for seceding the states, for seceding the Union. I'm going to scroll through here. I want you to see how many times slavery is highlighted in this thing, specifically African slavery. We're going to go through here. This is just Georgia. I want to go back in and read this. And you get to see it zoomed in because I'm using some new software that gives me this cool little window. The prohibition of slavery in the territories is the cardinal principle of this organization. It wasn't about slavery, right? Okay, we're going to continue down. This is just Georgia. Okay. And at the bottom, I believe, is their approval date. I'll check that just to make sure. Yes, approved Tuesday, January 29th of 1861. Okay. Here's Mississippi's. Okay. South Carolina's. Texas. Okay, here's Virginia's. Now, Here's the important thing you have to understand, because this one actually has to have part of it read. So, um, for you to understand that is actually talk about slavery within the state of Virginia, because of the fact, um, without reading the text, you don't initially see that slavery is mentioned. However, the last clause of the first paragraph, I'm just going to read the entire first paragraph. The people of Virginia, in their ratification of the Constitution of the United States of America, adopted by them in convention on 25th day of June in the year of our Lord 1788, having declared that the powers granted under the said Constitution we derived from the people of the United States, and might be resumed whensoever the same should be perverted to their injury and oppression, and the federal government having perverted said powers not only to the injury of the people of Virginia, but to the oppression of the southern slaveholding states. I mean, come on. Come on. It is pretty apparent at this point what the reason behind the secession from the United States was. So here's the thing you have to understand. It's slavery was it. And listen, regardless of racism or whatever reason, there was a economical reason they felt like that the sustainability of slavery was a must. So, and to give an example of those, I've got another website pulled up about that's got some clauses pulled up, part of which were um, used in the Declaration of Causes, but some are direct wording from world or national leaders from the southern states at that time. So, and these are important to know also. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these up and then read them. And I've highlighted all of them. And you're going to see it says the examination should begin in South Carolina. The site, I'm sorry. This is their text. The examination should begin in South Carolina, the site of our present and past catastrophe. South Carolina was the first state to secede 2 months after the election of Abraham Lincoln. It was in South Carolina that the Civil War began when the Confederacy fired on Fort Sumter. Okay, now, so here are the words of South Carolina in this instance. A geographical line has been drawn across the Union, and all of the states north of that line have united in the election of a man to the high office of President of the United States, whose opinions and purposes are hostile to slavery. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue reading actually. He is to be entrusted with the administration of the common government, because he has declared that government cannot endure permanently half slave, half free, and that the public mind must rest in the belief that slavery is in the course of ultimate extinction. Okay, here's Mississippi. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. And then down here it goes on to say, these products have become necessities of the world, and a blow at slavery is a blow at commerce and civilization. Louisiana. They've got an entire clause about it. As a separate republic, Louisiana remembers too well the whisperings of European diplomacy for the abolition of slavery in the times of annexation not to be apprehensive of bolder demonstrations from the same quarter and the north in this country. And then it just goes on to talk about in fact, I'll just read it. The people of the slave-holding states are bound together by the same necessity and determination to preserve African slavery. Okay, Alabama goes on to talk about how much they hate President Clinton mainly, but the key clause here is the inauguration of new principles and a new theory of government, and even the downfall of slavery. Texas. This first line for Texas is a doozy. In this free government, all white men are of right ought to be entitled to equal civil and political rights. That the servitude of the African race as existing in these states is mutually beneficial to both bond and free, and is abundantly authorized and justified by the experience of mankind and the revealed will of the Almighty Creator, as recognized by all Christian nations, while the destruction of the existing relations between the two races, as advocated by our sectional enemies, would bring inevitable calamities upon both and desolation upon the 15 slave-holding states. So, guys, all right, I don't think I have to press any more on the issue that the entire secession and the entire original cause of the Civil War was over slavery. Now, lots of people argue that this was over states' rights and taxation, and some of that is correct. Some of the reason that states did choose to secede, part of the reason were those were just additions to the main cause of they wanted to continue to be able to hold slaves. Now, this is important to know. It's hard for modern Americans to understand the incarceration of human beings to such an extent that they're willing to kill and drive a free portion of a nation over this cause. The key factor you need to remember is that there were roughly 4 million enslaved African Americans in the South at the time of the seceding of the Union. It was they were worth a combined total of about $3.5 billion at that point. At that time, African slaves were the most valuable asset the South owned at that time. So, they believed that the North was trying to take their most equitable asset from them, the thing that made them have the most value, and they were willing to fight over that. Now, let's talk about the flag directly. Because everyone says, well, there's no direct definition behind the flag, which is partially true. Someone didn't create the Dixie cross and be like, here's what this cross stands for. However, when you create a logo to represent something and then actions happen underneath that flag, what you have to remember is anything negative that happens as a result of displaying that flag is also a connotation of that flag because inherently of what its followers represent. So, that flag was used as a battle flag by multiple states. There were different iterations of that flag created that were used as battle states by like Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama. However, the common iteration we see of quote unquote the rebel flag or the Dixie cross was only used by Virginia's Navy Jack and the Tennessee State National Guard. So, however, you have to understand what the men who fought and died for that flag were attempting to accomplish by fighting under that flag. And that's where the racial connotation comes into play with this flag, is you have to understand the entire purpose of their fighting was to continue the right to the states to continue their most equitable asset, slave ownership, African slave ownership, as mentioned in their declaration of causes. Okay, now this conversation is not up for debate. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. You're seeing the words right out of the state's mouths and why they were seceding from the Union. So it doesn't matter what your opinion is at this point. This is absolute fact. So here is the point here. The overall objective is, if you fly the Dixie Cross, if you fly this flag, you need to understand there is most definitely a racist connotation to this flag. You need to understand that regardless of your intentions in flying this flag, there are negative repercussions or negative consequences that can come as a result of it. Not directly from our government. Our government isn't going to do anything if you're flying this flag. However, you are going to receive backlash from someone who is educated on the matter. So, bear in mind, if you choose to fly it, you have to accept the responsibility of that because it's your choice to fly this flag. So you bear all negative connotation that comes with it as well. So if you choose to continue flying it after knowing that, by all means, it's a free country. Do whatever you want to do. Now, the reason why I brought this up is in a conversation earlier today. What these one's a very good friend of mine. Some other one was some jackwagon in the army that tried to pretend like he knew what he was talking about and he didn't. But you know, the friend of mine and I are still friends. Like, we there are many things we differ in opinions on, and this is most definitely one of them. But what he stated that resonated with me was he said, "You can't tell me what that flag means to me." Well, you're right, but I can tell you what that flag officially means. And it doesn't matter what it means to you. You can't change the official meaning of this flag at all. The only person who can do that is the person who created it. The only people who can do that are the people who fought under it for the negative reason to come back somehow and change the directive of what they were doing in the first place. So it's impossible. Any connotation associated with this flag does have some sort of reside with it is residual to racism. It will always circle back to racism and African slave ownership. There's nothing you can do to change that. So, it's the same very reason. It doesn't matter what the connotation of the swastika was prior to Hitler. Like, people bring that up a lot whenever I compare this flag to the swastika. At one time, there was a point whenever the swastika was created and it was like a symbol of love and peace or something. And that, who knows? That may have been the reason that Hitler adopted it. However, Hitler did some nasty things under that flag, and as a result, Germany itself has outlawed the flying of the swastika in Germany. German citizens can't fly that flag. So it's important to understand the connotations behind things as they come along. Like, Germany's not proud of what happened during World War II, regardless of the heritage, not hate, right? Regardless of the heritage of it. All heritage is a background to something. This is something that Southern people are so miseducated on, so ignorant, and every time I hear that, it makes me laugh. It's heritage, not hate. No, 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 no. Heritage isn't a good thing in all cases. Part of American heritage is also running Native Americans out and giving them smallpox blankets and killing them, creating large massacres of Native people. That's an American heritage. Are we proud of that? That's part of our heritage. Heritage is not does not equal, it's not synonymous with good. There's good and bad heritage, and just because it's in your heritage doesn't mean you should be proud of it. So, and the Civil War is one of those things. The Civil War is a very dark time in American history when we were obviously very confused as to what was right and wrong, and the right prevailed. And the most important thing to remember about this flag is this flag and the actual Confederate flag and all iterations of the actual Confederate flag and the Dixie cross, all iterations of this cross died with the Civil War. The meaning, listen, this is important to understand. The meaning behind the flag did not disappear. That was a point someone tried to bring up earlier. They said, "Well, oh yeah, you're right. The negative connotation or the meaning behind the flag died with the Civil War." No, 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 no. Because it's history, it's written and it's in stone. The definition of the flag and what it represented never goes anywhere. The flag itself died. We don't live in the Confederate States of America now. We don't have a State of the Confederacy address. It's a State of the Union address. We live in the United States of America. We live in the Union. Okay? So all connotations with the or all representations of the Civil War in the southern states as a representation died. This flag does not represent the southern states at all. The only flag we have is the American flag. It's got 13 stripes, 50 stars, and a Navy placard at the top left corner of the flag. If you can't understand that, you have a lot to learn. Period. This is not an American flag at all. It's a flag of a loser. It's a flag of a representative wannabe country that never was, that got defeated pursuing the wrong thing. That's exactly what it is. It's not a representation of the South. It's not a representation of proud Southern heritage. Any of those statements and or connotations are absolutely wrong, and if that's the reason you're flying it, you are extremely ignorant on the matter. Period. I don't care if that offends you or not. If you fly this flag for any reason, with any intent other than what I told you, you are completely ignorant. You're uneducated on this matter. You don't know what you're talking about at all. So, with that said, you now understand the true meaning behind the Dixie Cross. What you do with it from here is up to you. Just know that at this point, if you're watching this and you're hearing what I'm saying, and you have seen what the state said about this cross that they fought under, and you continue to fly this flag, you take all responsibility for every single bit of negative connotation that comes along with it. Congratulations, that's your prize. Now, there are applications and places that do reserve the right to fly this flag or have this flag. Textbooks, it's important to understand what this flag is and teach the correct connotation that's behind it, and teach the history of the Civil War and understand the symbols that were representative of those states at that time. So textbooks are a great place for this flag. Cemeteries are a great place for this flag. There are people who died for this flag, regardless of what their personal intentions were for fighting. There were people who died for this flag, and removing this flag from those grave sites is kind of like letting them know that their deaths were in vain, or that they died for nothing. And under, I can't even remember the act, but under some military monument or memorabilia act, even though it wasn't part of our sovereign nation, all Confederate soldiers who died, all Confederate soldiers, period, are considered war vets for the United States. So, you can't sit there and say these guys died in vain. So this flag does belong in cemeteries. The actual Confederate flag belongs in cemeteries. It kind of goes along with the history book thing. You have to have this as a representation of what those people fought for so that you can understand what it was, the correct connotation behind it, and not disrespect the lives of the people who lost theirs as a result of what they were fighting for. So that's also, I do believe that this should not be taken down from cemeteries. It also should not be removed from Civil War memorabilia. Regardless of what people's thoughts are on like the statue of Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee and Robert E. Lee and other Confederate generals, and this flag, along with anything else that was within connotation of the Southern states during the Civil War, are all part of American history. And those monuments are a reminder of those things, regardless of how negative they are, regardless of what impact they have or what they represented at that time. They are a reminder of what happened. And one of the parts that social justice warriors miss about removing a statue of Robert E. Lee, for an example, is those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. And that's one of those things. If we abolish all this stuff, if we outlaw the rebel flag and get rid of all the monuments representing all the people that lost their lives during that time, and we mark it down to like a bad experience that we're trying to erase from history altogether, it's bound to make full circle and come back eventually. So this is one of those things you have to understand. We need to remember what happened during the Civil War. So memorabilia, paintings goes along with memorabilia, artwork, all this stuff should be able to exist in those things. You should not be flying this flag outside your home. And if you are, out of your choice, more power to you, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't understand the true iteration behind the flag and still be willing to fly it, knowing the true definition behind what that flag stood for. If you do, more power to you. I'm not going to come to your house and take it down. I'm not going to hold guns to you. I'm not going to shout at you or obscenities. It's a free country. You can do whatever the hell you want to do as long as it's not illegal or, I mean, really, this is immoral. But as long as it's not illegal, you can do it. There's no law presiding against it. There's nothing I can do or anyone else can do to tell you anything different. It's up to you. However, the next time you receive negative flack due to flying this flag, you have to own the responsibility of it, because now if you've seen this and you understand the history behind it, there's not much else I got for you. You understand the truth behind the flag and you chose to fly it anyway. So any negative flack that comes as a result of that is totally on you, bud. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Make sure you like this video. If you do, if you don't like it, feel free to hit that dislike button. I don't care either way. If you like controversial topics and debates and rants and podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you really like what you see, make sure you hit that bell next to the subscribe button. That will keep you in touch with any new content that comes to this channel, new video uploads, etc. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm Aaron Lockhart. Bye-bye.